What's up, everybody? Big Cobb Diesel coming at you, and I wanted to make a quick video today on use of force. What's your organization's use of force policy? Do you know it? Are you familiar with it? Are you comfortable with it? Reason why I'm making this video is there's a story that just came out of Texas. Yet another person was shot and killed in their home by a police officer, and I'll do a separate video on that and get into more detail. I want to wait because it looks like it just happened overnight last night, and let's wait and see what all the facts are. It's easy to jump to conclusions. Information is scarce. Sometimes conflicting information is released to the media. So I want to wait another 24 hours to see what other facts come out about that case. But that prompted me to want to do this video on use of force. The number one thing that will get you fired, if you're lucky, and or criminally prosecuted if you're not lucky, is excessive force. And excessive force means you're using more force than is reasonably necessary. Key word is reasonable. You're going to hear that word a lot, even when we're talking about search and seizure, stop and frisk, all this stuff. You're going to hear the word reasonable. What does that mean? That means what would a reasonably cautious person do if they were in the same situation you were in? That's what you're going to be judged against. And if you're judged that you were excessive, you're out of there. You're toast. So even if you get off criminally, you're still open civilly to litigation. All right, and we've seen a bunch of those cases, whether it's a use of force situation or other kinds of situations. One that comes to mind is O.J. Simpson, right? O.J. Simpson was acquitted. This wasn't a use of force in a law enforcement sense, but he was acquitted of murdering his ex-wife and her friend, but was found civilly liable for it. So the same kind of thing can happen in a use of force situation. You're on the job, you use force, you're found to maybe have not violated your company's policies, or you may not have been found guilty criminally, but you still may be open to civil liability. So that's something you always want to keep in mind. Now, that's not designed to make you gun shy. It's not designed to make you not do your job, but you got to know. You have to know what the rules are, and you have to know what the limits are. And the only way you do that is this right here. Now, what happens a lot of times with a lot of agencies is you get onboarded to your agency, and you may have an exhaustive review of the policy. You go through the policy. You may even go through some scenarios and ask questions and all this kind of stuff, and then you kind of put it away. And then most people never even pick it back up until it's time for some kind of annual recertification or annual training, and then you kind of go over it again, yada yada. Yep, I know I'm not supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that, and you put it away, and again it collects dust for a year. So one thing I would highly recommend is you keep your use of force policy handy and just kind of peruse it so that it stays fresh in your mind. Um, um, that's just kind of words of wisdom. It's not going to stop you or protect you from being armchair quarterback about what you do, and that's the nature of our business. You know, our job is to oversee. In my case, as a private security guard, is to oversee the client's property. As a sworn police officer, it's their job to oversee an area, a city, you know, that kind of stuff. But somebody's always over us, making sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. So just realize that when you use force, you got to be able to justify. And like somebody once told me when I was a new corrections officer, he said, don't do anything that doesn't look good on paper. Just think of a text message you might have sent to somebody. You may have been trying to joke with them or be sarcastic. Because they can't see your face, they can't hear the inflection in your voice, they take it the wrong way, and then you have to try to, fix it. Same thing, if you do something that you're going to have to write on a report, you better make damn sure that what you did is proper and that it looks proper on a report. Now, you can be improper and you can write a false report, but now you got a whole nother situation to deal with. So the idea is know your use of force policy, follow it. If you don't know, ask somebody. Ask a more senior officer than yourself. Ask your supervisor. Hell, ask HR. Somebody will have an answer for you. Um, the biggest thing is with excessive force, and kind of the angle I'm coming at today is guns, using guns. That's the ultimate. If you shoot somebody, take somebody's life, you can't do any worse than that. So when you're looking at the big picture of when you're dealing with somebody, what are we trying to accomplish, right? So I work in kind of a unique place where we have office buildings, so we have people that work in these office buildings, we have restaurants, we have a hotel, we have retail shops, we have parking garages, we have a riverfront. I mean, it's literally like a small city. We have 14 acres that we're responsible for, and we have any kind of call that you can imagine as a police officer, we have it. Um, so when you're dealing with a situation, you gotta say, okay, what's the goal here? So for instance, if I get a radio run to the drugstore that's located on our property because somebody's shoplifting, and I get this kid and he's got his pockets full of wham whams and zoom zooms and all that. If the kid becomes combative, if he becomes belligerent, and we end up having to go hands on and cuff this kid, um, I can't imagine a situation where I would even pull my gun out in any situation unless the kid threatens deadly force or serious physical injury, meaning he presents a knife, he presents a gun, or some other form of deadly weapon that I know if he uses it on me or somebody else, they're going to suffer serious injury or death. So anything short of this kid pulling out a knife, the gun never comes into play. Um, Pepper spray, maybe. It just depends on what's going on. But at the end of the day, if the kid stole a bag of goldfish, the worst thing that's going to happen to this kid is he gets pepper sprayed. And those of you that are familiar with pepper, it's exactly what it says. It's pepper. So at the end of the day, I sprayed a hot food item in this kid's face to get him under control, either to get him handcuffed or to get him down to the detention cell. And that's the worst thing that's going to happen to this kid because he stole some goldfish, right? So when you look at some of these stories and you hear about these officers and yep, they shot this person, and it all started with something very petty, something very small. You got to scratch your head and say, really, this kid was jaywalking, or this guy you know stole a beer. Again, if they didn't pull a weapon, come on, that's too much. So use your head, think about the totality of circumstances, and that's a catchphrase that you will hear again. What's the totality of the circumstances? Now, what you'll see happens from time to time too is it'll be something simple like somebody stole something, or in the case of the guy in New York that was selling illegal cigarettes or whatever. Um, you know, um, what is supposed to be the end of that deal? What is the big outcome that you're looking for at the end of the day? Somebody stole something. Worst case scenario, they get arrested. Maybe they get a warning. And again, it goes back to using your use of force. And use of force always starts with verbal commands. So, scenario, I get called over to the drugstore. Kid is suspected of shoplifting. I get the kid. I catch him outside. I say, hey, man, what are you doing? Where are you going? He tells me whatever he's going to tell me. Hey, are you stealing from over there? He might say no. He might say yeah, whatever. All right, man, empty your pockets out. He empties his pockets out. He's got snacks. Okay. That's it. That's it. As long as he doesn't present a weapon or threaten anybody, life is good. The snacks go back. He gets taken down, gets cuffed up, and at the end of the day, he walks out of there. So think about that, guys, when you are on the job. And I realize some of you aren't carrying weapons, and that's fine too, because that's your limit. You know what your limit is. Verbal commands. I know some security companies use of force is very vague. I was with a different security company before this one, and their use of force policy was very, very vague. and the way that their company was set up, they wanted you there as a visual deterrent with the uniform and the badge. But basically, if somebody tested you, you pretty much were like, okay, man, steal the TV. I'm just going to call the cops and give them a description. That's all. It's like one of my instructors said last week. It's like that alarm company that says, hey, just so you know, if somebody's breaking in your house, we can't do anything about it, but you should know. So kind of like that deal where you might be working retail somewhere, you might be, at the Secretary of State's office. You don't even have a weapon. You got some keys. You might have a radio, and if something goes on, your job is just to say, "Okay, man, don't hurt nobody." Give a description. Or you might be working an armed account where um, obviously the use of force policy is to the next level where you may have to use deadly force to prevent something from happening. But everything always starts, for the most part, with verbal. Now, if somebody presents a weapon to you right off the bat, well, there ain't no talking. Because remember, use of force, you're always going to meet the level of aggression that you're being presented with plus one. So that's always something to think about, too. Guys, feel free to share your thoughts and everything down below. This is not going to be the last video that I'm going to do on use of force. It's a huge topic. It's affecting a lot of people's lives. It's changing people's lives, and people are dying sometimes. So this is a subject that I'm going to talk about at great length from time to time. I won't beat you guys over the head with it every day or every week even, but if something comes up, I'm definitely going to talk about it. But I can't think of everything. If there's things you guys want to talk about, especially if you have any input for use of force, what is your company's policy on use of force? Have you ever had to use force? And if so, what was the outcome? I'd love to hear about it, and we can discuss it some more. And then when I get some more information on this shooting that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm definitely going to come back and do a video on that, because I think it's important, with all these tragedies, the one glimmer of a good thing that can come out of them is that we can learn from them. Yes, somebody lost their life, and that's nothing's going to change that. Nothing's going to bring that back. But for the rest of us, if we can learn something, perhaps from this police officer's mistakes, then the rest of us are better for it. And again, thoughts and prayers go out to the family of the young lady that passed away. All right, guys, I will talk with you all soon. Peace.